Welcome, my friends, to our third in a series of project management professional studying. Over the past 2 weeks, we talked about the people domain and the process domain, and I give you assignments every week. And honestly, you can start anywhere. You don't have to start in the business domain, but you could because you've been through the training. You could, if you wanted to, this week say I'm going to get the business domain done or I'm going to get the process domain done. It's all related. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now is bring up the PMP exam content outline that you know very well. You know that the exam is based on this thing, and I'm going to be walking you through it very quickly just to reorient your direction, purpose, and goals. So the reason why you're here is because you want to get certified as a project management professional. The PMP is one of the most widely, if not the most widely recognized project management certification in the world. It is a big deal when you get PMP certified. Doors open, organizations welcome you in. As I always tell you, my journey at Honeywell, it started off with me getting PMP certified. Without PMP, they wouldn't be looking at me. As a result of my PMP, I got into firms like Motorola, General Dynamics, and more. And as a result of my PMP, I've been fortunate to coach entities like NASA, like the FBI, like the US Army and the US Air Force, and many, many more entities like Department of Transport. I could go on and on. So this is going to add tremendous value to you, but we need to take the exam. The exam is broken into people, process, and business. The first week, we covered the people domain. Then we covered the process domain last week. And this week, we're covering the business domain. But before we jump into what we have for this week, let's go over what we have already consolidated. As a project manager taking the PMP exam, the PMI wants you to understand how to manage conflict, how to lead a team, how to support your team's performance, how to empower your team, how to get training for your team members and stakeholders, how to build a team, how to address and remove impediments, obstacles, and blockers, how to negotiate anything, how to collaborate with stakeholders, how to build a shared understanding. That's all about transparency, how to engage and support virtual teams, how to define ground rules and create charters, team contracts, social contract, team agreements, which will contain the ground rules, how to mentor relevant stakeholders, and how to promote team performance through the application of EI. Remember, emotional intelligence is your ability to understand your emotions and how you're able to influence the emotions of others, not control. That will not be a good word. So it's not about control, it's about understanding how to influence the emotions of other people. That's the people domain in a nutshell. The process domain, number one, execute the project with urgency required to deliver business value. Think about it. If you have a barren land, parched land, the land is about to die, it's got some plants growing, but if you don't get it the water that it needs, it's curtains for those plants. Number one is like executing a project quick so you can get that value to the part of the business that needs it the most. Manage communications is about managing communications. I am going to give you the PMI's three things that you do here. Number one, you plan communications management. Number two, you manage communications. Number three, you monitor communications. These are things you must have at your fingertips when you're looking at any area. Number three, assess and manage risk. For this, I want to challenge you. Those of you that have been on the journey for over 30 days, chat into me. What are the 7 things that the PMI says you should do in risk management? Now, if all you're seeing or hearing is crickets, we got a problem. Because as Jamie alluded to, this area is crazy. It's big. It's a behemoth. But how do you ensure that your closet is well organized, my friends? The way to ensure your closet for the PMP is well organized is to know thine steps. It's that simple. You got to know your steps. So for risk management, we have 7 steps. Okay, chat into me any of the steps you remember. Any. Anyone remember any of the steps? All right. Let me give you some clues. Let's see if you can take these clues and make them the actual things. PRMIR, PQRA, PQNRA, PRR, RIRR, and MR. If you're not able to draw any analogies or conclusions from these letters, you got work to do because this needs to be in your back pocket at all times. This is what is going to make you solid in the process domain, my friends. To remember, oh, first thing we do is we plan. Oh, I see a chat. Let's see what we've got here. Ah, thank you, Nieves. Well done. Ah, and Nieves is new to this stuff, but she remembers. Very good. Thank you, Jamie. There we go. Very good. So plan risk management, identify risks, perform qualitative risk analysis, perform quantitative risk analysis, plan risk responses, implement risk responses, monitor risk. So you've already been for the training. All you need to do is consolidate these ideas and say, what do I do in plan risk management? Oh, it's planning how to manage risk. What do I do in identify risk? It's identifying the risks, the cause, the risk, the effect. What do I do in qualitative risk analysis? High, medium, low, or the risk score? What do I do in quantitative? Find the expected monetary value or the dollar amount. Overall, when you multiply probability in percent times impact, excuse me, excuse me, times impact in dollars. And what do you do in plan risk responses? You're planning how to respond to the risk. Chat into me. What are the 5 responses you have for negative risk? Does anyone remember? You have negative risks. What are the 5 things you could do about those negative risks? Who remembers? Thank you, Mark. Very good. Now let's take what Mark typed in and let's see if we can break it apart. Who remembers what the A is? What the T, E? Thank you. Thank you, Shah. That's a good one. Ah, they're now on a roll. Everyone's woken up now. Thank you. Thank you. Ah, she's killing it. She's killing it. I think I saw everything I needed there. So avoid, transfer, escalate, accept, and mitigate. Well done, Shah. Awesome. So when you get to plan risk responses, just remember, okay, what are the responses I'm planning? Now, let me give you another one. What about, oh, thank you, Jamie. There you go. Right on the money. Good deal. Now, let's say you have a positive risk. There are five responses for positive risks. Do you remember what they are? Thank you. Uh-oh. Shaw came ready, ready for the battle. Enhance, accept, share, exploit. Fantastic. Awesome. Right on the money. Right on the money. Well done. So that forms a mnemonic easy. So just to help you with your recall, you got A team for negative risks, and you've got easy for positive risks. Very good. So, without going too deep into anything else, this is the level I need you to be able to think at. So, think about the E's: exploit, enhance, escalate. Think about the A and the S: accept and share. And then it becomes easier to recall this stuff. Very well done. Well done, Jamie. Good stuff. Well, I'm glad you are familiar with this and you are able to recall it at the drop of a hat. Very well done. Now, let's go over very quickly to the others so that we can get into our business domain, and then we'll come back to some questions for the process domain and the business domain. I'll kind of mesh them together towards the end. So, engage stakeholders, speaking with your stakeholders, understanding how much engagement is needed and engaging them. Plan and manage budget and resources is really cost management and resource management. Again, you really got to know that table. I know some of you are new to this, so you don't know the table inside out. But as the days go on, my friends, you do need to know that table. And I'm talking about the table that has got the 49 processes. I am going to put that in the chat for you right now because I think if you put this on your phone and if you take a look at this daily at lunchtime, just like I did, I think you're going to very quickly warm up to the names and understand what is in integration, what is in scope. So let me tell you for the process domain, PMI's favorites, their scope, schedule, and cost, the trifecta, that's for sure. And then they love quality. And they also love the team aspects. They also love risk in general. So it's almost as though, wow, I got to know this whole table. And when I say know it, you got to know the engineering of it. One of the things my class, where Nieves was a student this week, one of the things we did, I challenged them to conceptualize principles for each knowledge area. What is your principle for managing scope? Not process. I want you to think from a principles perspective. What is my principle for managing schedule? What are my values for managing schedule and things such as that? But it was a challenge. I challenged them to think about those things, and they did very well in coming up with their own ideas. So whenever you encounter these tasks, really go into, okay, in the real world, how would I do it? Plan and manage schedule is all about the timeline. Plan and manage quality is all about the quality area. Plan quality management, manage quality, control quality. Manage scope, plan and manage scope is all about plan scope management, collect requirements, define scope, create WBS, validate the scope, control the scope. Integrate project planning activities is just integration. So when you think about integrating those activities, this is what PMI is telling you. They're telling you that you need to think about the integration process for planning, which combines all of this. That's how you need to be thinking. So whenever you look at a task, ask yourself, how does this really work in pragmatism? If I was being pragmatic in the real world, how would I integrate project planning activities? And it's combining all the knowledge areas. Number 10, manage project changes. Understand that you got to document the change, you got to analyze it. The change should actually be logged first, and it needs to be passed on to the change control board where there is one, and so on. Number 11, plan and manage procurements. So plan procurement management, conduct procurements, control procurements, manage project artifacts. We have three artifacts in the world of Scrum. But can you just type into me which artifacts do you remember from Agile? Do you remember any artifacts from Agile? If you do, chat them in. Artifacts in the world of Agile. We have three quite popular ones. What are they? And you know, when I say Agile, it could be any Agile framework. But if you wanted to break them down one by one, thank you, Jamie. That is definitely one of them. The PSI, potentially shippable increment. Thank you. From the world of Agile, which other one do we have? Thank you. Oh, Jamie's on fire on this one. She's rapid fire in them. Sprint backlog. Thank you. That's definitely another one. What's the final one? Ah, Jamie's quick on the draw. Thank you. Sprint backlog, product backlog, and the PSI. Very good. Now let's take it to the world of Kanban. Give me one artifact from Kanban. Just one. Just one. What is the most obvious artifact from Kanban? Without it, you may not have Kanban. That's an easy way of remembering the artifact from Kanban. Who remembers? What is that one artifact? Without that, you ain't doing Kanban. You could be doing something else that's similar, like a list. Okay. I may not have said it as explicitly. It's the obvious one, the Kanban board. It's the Kanban board. So the Kanban board has the, of course, backlog in it. So pretty much. But very good, Neva. So that's one of the principles. The work in progress and the way it's broken down, the to do, doing, done, that's all on the board. Very good. So your Kanban board with the to do, doing, done, it becomes an artifact with all of the tickets on it. It becomes an artifact. So just remember that in Agile, there are many different artifacts. Now let's talk about predictive. What are the artifacts in the predictive world? Just give me any of them. I'll give you a clue. You get a lot of them from planning. A lot of them. Artifacts in predictive, where we have the 5 process groups, the 10 knowledge areas. What is the most glaring artifact? So think about it like this. In initiating, what is the most glaring artifact? In planning, thank you, Jamie. That's a very good one. WBS is definitely a good one. That's the beginning. Good. There are others, like too many others. So let me give you a news flash. All of those baselines and all, thank you. Now we're talking. Very good, Shaw. Risk rate. Now we're talking. Absolutely. You're getting it. So that laundry list of registers, plans, logs, you got it. Very good. You get the idea. All of these are artifacts that we consider. So when it says manage project artifacts, you got to determine the requirements for managing that particular artifact. And then you got to validate that the information is up to date. So all the things that you're typing in here, absolutely right on the money. Thank you. All right, number 13, determine the appropriate project methodology, methods, and practices. So we have all these steps, but if we really wanted to boil it down, you got predictive, You got agile, you got hybrid. You can also say iterative and incremental are words that you need to be familiar with. So let's very quickly change gears and go to a slide that we have in our slide deck, where we will again talk just a little bit about the world of predictive, iterative, incremental, agile, and all that stuff. Now, if you haven't read PMI's book, which is called Agile Practice Guide, you may not have come across this. So you might want to take a photo of it. But let's delineate what is the difference between predictive and agile when it comes to the different aspects of a project. When it comes to predictive, we deliver one time, single delivery. That is very important to grasp. When it comes to iterative, we repeat things till correct because we are prototyping and looking for the best way of doing things. When your prototype is there and your customer says, yes, that's the one, what happens is that you deliver one time. So iterative does not mean multiple deliveries. Let's get that straight. Iterative means we're repeating the work in cycles, but it doesn't mean that you are delivering the work. You get the idea? Iterative means we're repeating activities until they're correct. So that is a huge distinguishing factor between iterative versus incremental. In incremental, we are delivering frequently and in smaller batches. Also, there's a difference between iterative and incremental in that we are not doing things repeatedly in incremental. Incremental is used when we have a well-defined product that does not need experimentation. We know what we're doing, but we're delivering it in batches. So we do a little bit and then we deliver. We're not going to repeat until correct. We're not going to do prototyping. We're going to work and we're going to deliver. So let's say I need to deliver 500,000 phones to Amazon for business. My incremental approach could be let's create 100,000 and deliver one batch. Another 100,000, deliver another batch. And we can have 5 incremental batches. But incremental needs to have a well-defined product for you to be able to do this sensibly. Now, agile, we are going to repeat until correct, and we are going to deliver in small deliveries. So how would that work? You deliver a bit of the functionality and you get feedback. If you need to do something again, you do it, but you're going to repeat a cycle of work every sprint. So you do a little bit, you could deliver. A little bit, you could deliver. It's very different. We are repeating, though. If there's anything that's not favorable, we're going back to the drawing board because the products that work in Agile are those that are a bit ambiguous, maybe complex, maybe you could say even in a somewhat chaotic environment. So there's a place for predictive, and there's a place for Agile, and there's a place for iterative, and there's a place for incremental. Okay. Any questions? I hope the light bulbs came on because this is one area people struggle with in project management. But it's good to always say, is it frequent deliveries or is it a single delivery? That's the first part of the battle. And when you understand that incremental and agile are frequent, smaller deliveries, that helps you in understanding the word incremental. Now, on the exam, PMI generally fixate between predictive and agile, a little bit of iterative. Incremental may not come as a stock question, but you should know that agile is incremental and iterative. This is what makes agile quite unique because agile is both iterative and incremental. Both of these give you this. And that's what makes it so unique. Okay. So the reason why I'm showing you this is when we go back to the PMI content outline, the PMP content outline, it mentions iterative, incremental, predictive, agile, hybrid. So you got to understand them so that if you face any question that requires it, you're going to be able to navigate it. All right, number 14, it just says governance. You got to establish governance, do's, don'ts, rules at a higher level for authority. What authority do I have as a project manager? What authority do I have as a developer or as a team member? That has to be defined. And then how are we going to escalate things? What is the escalation path? So the PMI expects you to think about that. Managing project issues and issue log. Many of you chatted in issue log for the artifacts, and that's correct. Ensure knowledge transfer for project continuity. That just means make sure that knowledge is being transferred from person to person so the project can continue should anyone leave. And last but not least, we have plan and manage the project or phase closure or transitions. In other words, when you're handing over to someone else, make sure it's a smooth transition. Now, is a good time to ask, are there any specific questions about the process domain? Or maybe it's a knowledge area that you need a little bit more finesse on. I'm going to give you an opportunity to unmute and let me know. And then we can always go back to anything that you highlight. But I'll pause the recording so that you feel free to ask any questions or put them in the chat. Welcome back, my friends. We've had some consensus that quality is an area we should look at in a little bit more detail. So here's a softball quality question. As you work on the retrospective, a discussion about enablers of agility is started by two team members. As servant leader, they ask you for advice. Which of the following would you use as an indicator for agility? Okay, hold on to your thoughts as you look at the question. I want you to choose two. And when you've got your two, on the count of three, I want you to type them into the chat box. Only on the count of three. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good. All right. Thank you very much. So, an enabler for agility. This is really asking you, based on the Agile Manifesto, which of these do they say enhances your agility? You get it? So the answer, the best answer to this is actually what is in the Agile Manifesto, technical excellence and good design. Technical excellence and good design enhances agility. So that would be that one. And you do know that a retrospective is part of the quality process. So keep that in mind. Very well done. Okay, let's take a look at another question just to get our heads in the right direction. Okay. You are working on an agile project and your customer is looking forward to approving the final deliverable. You need to perform frequent incorporation of ongoing work into the whole product and then retest to determine that the entire product still works as intended. Which of the following XP practices should you do to satisfy this? Well, this is a tricky one because it's going a little bit deeper into agile, but think about it and give it a shot. All right. Thank you very much. So there's only one correct answer for this. So choose one. Good, good. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's take a look at the answer. Thank you very much. And the answer is indeed continuous integration. Well done. So you see, with these questions, it just takes some looking at it, some thinking, some processing the information. And as you become more familiar with the terms, the answers will make sense. Let's try the final little question before we go into the actual instruction. So this is coming at you from Agile in Quality in Agile. You're working on an Agile project with team members. Your customer is looking forward to approving the final deliverable. Which of the following should you do first as a project manager? Take some time to read it. Hey, feel free on the count of three. One, two, three. Whenever you're ready. All right. Three, two, one. Okay, let's end. Thank you. Thank you very much. So let's think about it. Your customer is looking forward to approving the final deliverable. What actually should happen? Does a retrospective happen before the customer does that? No, the retrospective happens after sprint review. So sprint review happens first, then retrospective. So taking a look at the options, the best answer is indeed you got to define the DOD. Very well done. The definition of done. So that's a checklist of all the criteria. You got to define the criteria. And then when you've defined the definition of done, you know that this is good to go to the customer. And also the customer is able to understand if you've truly arrived at the done state. Okay. So this kind of tackled quality from a different angle, maybe a little bit different from what you were expecting. Now, maybe something closer to home just to get you in the 49 processes direction. You've been asked to define the quality standards for the project and its products based on the project scope, risks, and requirements in order to prevent the occurrence of defects and control the cost of quality. What should you do first as the project manager? And for this one, I will give you a poll instead. Here's your poll. Poll on the way. Here it is. Very well done. Let's end the poll and let's check the results. And from your results, it seems like you're in the right wheelhouse. The answer is A. Brilliant. Now let's change gears here because I want to give you a very quick run through of the world of quality, the very, very high level, just to kick the tires, make sure we're thinking in the right direction. Okay. So let's jump in. So when you think about quality, you got to think about fitness for use, conformance to requirements, customer satisfaction, and Kaizen. Three things we do in quality in PMI's world. Number one, you got to plan quality management, as you detected in that last question. We're going to develop a plan for how to manage quality and how to improve the processes. Then you manage quality, which means you're executing the quality management plan to comply with the organizational standards. And lastly, you control quality. You need to inspect the deliverable, inspect the product. Now, how does quality work at a high level very rapidly? We're getting the work done, but we should also be checking the work, not the product, but checking the process, right? That's managed quality. You're going to end up getting deliverables from direct to managed project work, but those need to be checked. So think about it. When you cook food, you taste it to make sure it's not crazily salty or sugary before you give it to the customer, right? Or your family members. So that's control quality. And if it isn't good enough, then you gotta change something. So that's that change request loop, and you gotta do it again. So let's say you do it again, and then it finally is tasted, and you feel, yeah, this is good to go to the customer. It goes to the customer, and the customer says, nah, it's too salty. I don't like it. They put in a change request. There's an approved change request, and then we got to do it again. But a part of doing it again, we got to understand the quality control measurements. Is it too salty? Why is it too salty? That's a measurement. So on a scale of 1 to 10, the salt is an 8, 8 being very high. You got to take those measurements and go back to manage quality and ask, why did this happen? When you understand why it happened, you go for another round of work. You get to the part where the customer tests it and then they accept it. And then there's a final closeout and transition to the customer. And that's just how quality comes in the loop. Now, if we're going to talk about some of the things that are very specific to quality, rather unique to quality, you got to think about concepts like paying a cost for quality. There has to be a cost for quality. Quality isn't free. So you got to think about the cost for quality. So all the cost that you pay to uphold quality, you should be thinking about them. There are also many, many tools and techniques and approaches you should be thinking about. So I'm going to show you a few of these. Quality metrics, as Shah said in the beginning, that is very important. You also want to be thinking about quality reports, a report on the important aspects of quality on the project. You also want to be able to answer to these documents or methods. I'm going to go very quick with these. Design for X, where you're designing for a specific aspect. An example could be designing for comfort or design for ease of assembly. Every element on your project or product, rather, could be designed with an X factor in mind. So just keep that in mind. Affinity diagrams are used to group ideas. Flow charts are used to show the flow through a set of processes. Ishikawa diagrams, cause and effect diagrams, are used to identify the causes of certain risks or certain problems. Histograms are used to show tabulated frequencies from data. You also have matrix diagrams, which show how the top, the column relates to the row. And then you also need to understand things like scatter diagrams. They show you if there's a relationship between variables. You also need to understand control charts. These are in our essentials book. They're also in our immersion book. So just understanding some of the variables on the control chart, they could be helpful in answering maybe one question on your exam. So we don't want you to just gloss over them. We want you to understand at least what the control chart does for you. We also need to understand the world of Six Sigma, understand that Six Sigma means 99.9997% level of accuracy. So that is very important for your quality on the exam, for quality. There are many other terms when it comes to the world of quality. So let's take a look at a big overview here. If I were you and I was trying to hammer down certain terminologies, I would say the metrics, the plan, the quality reports, like these outputs are super important. Understanding the concept of quality control measurements, which are just measurements that you make of a deliverable when you're in quality control. Verified deliverables, which just means a deliverable that has passed the test of quality. Things like audits, design for X, problem solving, testing and product evaluations, inspection. These are things you want to be aware of. Now, all of this is from PMBOK 6, But remember, we also have the Essentials book, and you folks that haven't received it will be receiving it. It has got some of these things talked about in more detail. Okay. So that is quality at a very, very high level. Maybe when we get done, if there are additional questions, we can take those questions and talk about them in more detail. But in the interest of time, where I want to move to next is the aspect of cost. So I hope that gave you a little bit of memory jogging. Let's go to the aspect of costs very briefly, and I'll just talk about the earned value section so that you've got some level of comfort with it. So in cost management, we have four processes. The first process is called plan cost management. You're developing a plan for how to manage cost. The second is called estimate cost. You're estimating how much each activity will take. The third is determine budget, which is rolling up all of the cost to a final total. And the last one is control cost, where you are ensuring that the team is sticking to the budget, not deviating. And if they are deviating, you want to understand why. Now, a big part of your PMP exam cost aspect that people freak out about is earned value. But earned value on the exam can be distilled into these formulas. Number one, you're going to have your SPI, then your CPI, your SV, and your CV. They all start with earned value. If it's an index, you divide. If it's a variance, you subtract. And the best way to get good with this is to keep doing question after question, just taking a look at various simple, maybe not too hard, but you can do some really simple earned value calculations. The exam is going to boil down to the question, here are a bunch of metrics or a bunch of measurements. Is this good, bad, or otherwise? To be perfectly honest, I have not had a whole lot of people experience the earned value calculations on the exam beyond the here's EV, here's PV, what is the SPI, or what is the CPI, or what is the CV, or what is the SV. They've been generally quite straightforward. So I wouldn't go crazy on trying to solve extremely difficult earned value questions, but you got to understand the metrics and what they mean. Okay. So let me give you one simple question. You are comparing the work performed by the team to the actual costs paid to perform that work by dividing one by the other. Which metric does this describe? So here is a poll to ask you that. What do you think? Comparing the work performed to the actual cost. Can you guess? Very good. All right. Let's go ahead and end the poll very shortly in 5, 3, 2, and 1. Let's end the poll. And just for context, all this is anonymous. No one knows who voted what. But I'm really delighted that you all got it right. That's a CPI. So really what this is saying is you're dividing the earned value by the actual cost. Fantastic. Great work. So with that said, let me give you a few more very simple questions because your exam is going to give you things that are in this aspect, not necessarily in big old formulas. to solve? No, it's going to be pretty much SPI. SPI equals 0.8. So if this is A and this is B, CPI equals 1.2. And let me give you a C. SV is equal to 200. Chat into me what A, B, and C mean. So if you think A means on budget, if you think B means on schedule, just type it into the chat. What does A, B, and C mean? So this is schedule performance index, cost performance index, and schedule variance. What do you think that means? Just give me the high level interpretation. You can say A, good, B, good, C, bad, or whatever, that kind of thing. Okay. Thank you, Nieves. That is good. Thank you, Shah. Right on the money. So A is bad. That's off the table. What about B? Thank you, Nieves. Very good. Thank you, Shah. That is right. B is good. It's above one. Thank you, Jamie. What about C? Schedule variance. So variance is the difference between earned value and planned value. So what do you think? If someone says we have a schedule variance of $200, this is actually good because it's positive. Now, if it was negative, that means you have a problem. Let's think about this. Why is that the case? SV is equal to earned value minus planned value. So let's say you got 200 and let's say $250 of work done, but you only set out to get $50 of work done. You only set out to get 50, but you got 200, right? If you have a positive number like $200, that shows, yeah, you're way ahead. But you cannot see the ratio. But even though you cannot see the ratio, a positive number is always good. A negative number is always bad. And a zero, so if the answer said, if it said SV is equal to zero, this means on schedule. That's what this means. Okay. So for your earned value, if I were you, I would spend time understanding the SPI and SV. They have the same metrics in them. This is a division. This is a subtraction, right? This one also starts with EV, and because it's an index, you're going to divide by AC, and CV is going to be the same EV and AC, but you're going to have a subtraction. The variances is the subtraction. The indices is the division. All right. And with that, I don't want to keep you any further. I want to say thank you for coming on today's episode. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording since we've hit the 1 hour. And while we didn't hit the business domain completely, for those who I know are going to dial in and be expecting to see it, let me very quickly cover in 2 minutes. Just give me 2 minutes and I'm going to be done. So we're going to cover the business domain in more robustness next week, but at this high level, think about compliance, health, safety, and so on. You are responsible project manager. You better know how that works. PCI compliance, OSHA regulations for health and safety. You better know how that works. Number two, evaluate and deliver project benefits and value. So, as a product owner, as a project manager, you should be obsessed with value. If it's not valuable, don't do it. And if it is valuable, you better make sure those benefits are identified. Does anyone remember the role that deals with benefits? Chat into me if you remember. Which role in PMI's framework deals with benefits? And it's not the project manager. Don't say project manager. It's not the PM. But there's a role that deals with benefits. Let's see if you know that. Anyone remember? Okay, it's called benefits owner or benefits manager. Okay, that's the role, the person, benefits owner or benefits manager. Okay, number three, evaluate and address the external business environment changes. So, what this is saying is ensure that you understand what is happening in the business landscape. What is OpenAI doing? What is Elon Musk doing? What are all the companies that are associated with tech doing? What is happening geopolitically? So it says regulations, technology, geopolitical. What's happening in the business landscape? What's happening in the marketplace? What's happening in the game of business in the world at large? And number four, support organizational change. Assess organizational culture. Know how your project affects the firm and how your firm affects the project. All right. And with that, we are done. Thank you all very much for your contributions and your questions. I will stop the recording and I will take any questions you have offline. For those of you who are following on Udemy, this series, my goal for you this week is for you to at least take either people, study it all the way to the end, process, study it all the way to the end, or business and study it all the way to the end. And remember, you are meant to be using the PMP exam immersion book. Let me show you just in case you forgot what it looks like. We're using the red book that all of you know very well because you should all have your copies of PMP Exam Immersion. So the idea is to read a chapter from here, take the quizzes in the book, jump on the PM Doctor site, for those of you, or the FlexiQuiz site, take the quizzes for that task. And I normally say 2 tasks a day, 3 tasks a day, and you're going to get to your goal. But every week, I want you to be hitting either people cover everything, process cover everything, or business cover everything. Thank you all very much. I'll now take questions.